In the early days of the MCU, one of the biggest points of contention was the lackluster villain writing. Early MCU villains tended to be bland, one-dimensional figures meant solely to oppose the protagonist. In recent years, however, this has evolved, and the writing has improved to the degree of giving us some of the best, most three-dimensional antagonists we've ever seen in the MCU. Zemo is a heartbroken man consumed by vengeance at the loss of his family. Killmonger wanted to use Wakanda's resources in order to help oppressed people around the world. Loki sought his father's acceptance and approval, and Adrian Toomes simply wanted to find a way to provide for his family after losing his livelihood to Tony Stark. But what if one of the most heartbreaking and devastating motivations of an MCU antagonist is one that hasn't been revealed just yet? What if Lady Loki, aka Sylvie, has one of the most human and most tragic motivations we've seen in the MCU to date? So far, we know she is on a quest to presumably attack and dethrone the Timekeepers, though she shows no interest in taking over the TVA. So what could she possibly want with the destruction of the Timekeepers and the sacred timeline? The answer is a simple one. She wants to survive. Sylvie never wanted any of this destruction. In fact, her plan to bomb the sacred timeline had nothing to do with throwing the multiverse into chaotic disarray, but it was just a distraction. The bombing of the timeline was nothing more than an elaborate smokescreen meant to distract the TVA and the Minutemen long enough for her to infiltrate the TVA headquarters and get to the Timekeepers. Sylvie never wanted any of this. She only ever wanted to overthrow the Timekeepers in order to be free. But desperate times call for desperate measures. She reveals in Loki episode 3 that she hasn't had serious relationships before, hinting at a postman somewhere in the timeline that she visits occasionally, but implies that it is nothing serious. She barely remembers her mother, has no family, no home, no timeline to speak of, and claims that she does not love anyone, or that love itself does not exist. We know that Sylvie is a variant of Loki that strayed from the timeline at some point, and has been on the run ever since. But what the show doesn't acknowledge yet is that it likely wasn't even her fault. Miss Minute states that something as small as being late for work can turn an everyday citizen into a variant. We see Loki plucked off of the timeline for just existing and trying to escape custody, and we know that every single member of the TVA is a variant that was captured from the timeline and now spends their life in service of the TVA and the Timekeepers. It is unreasonable to assume that anyone, Sylvie included, knew that they were deviating from the sacred timeline, let alone that they were doing it willingly. It's likely that Sylvie was going about her day on her timeline when the Minutemen arrived to take her away and destroy everything she knew and loved. She had no reason to know of the existence of the TVA or the sacred timeline, let alone that she was committing a crime against time itself. It's even possible that Sylvie herself was just a child when these events transpired, and has been on the run for a millennia. Sylvie sees the TVA as a corrupt, bureaucratic agency that has killed off everyone and everything she's ever known, and been hunting her for simply existing. As an Asgardian, Sylvie is thousands of years old and has faced a level of immense isolation that no human can even comprehend. She is lonely, she is scared, she is on the run, and she is fighting back in the only way she knows how. Fighting merely for the right to live a normal life in peace. There is presumably no way to restore her timeline, leaving her without a home, cursed to hide away in different apocalyptic locations across time, watching anywhere from dozens to planets of innocence die day in and day out. All Sylvie wants is to be able to sleep in without worrying that she's been in the same place for too long. She wants someone to trust, truly trust and confide in. She wants to not be alone anymore, to have friends, to have a day without being afraid of being hunted by faceless bureaucrats that can dissolve individuals at a whim without jurisdiction or justification or oversight at all. The TVA is hunting her simply for existing, which is the very definition of persecution. Sylvie sees the TVA as an agency of tyrannical dictators who go wherever they want, whenever they want, take whatever they want, and destroy as many innocent lives as it takes in the process. So is Sylvie really the villain of Loki? And is her motivation really all that misguided at all? Sylvie simply wants a normal life, to not be isolated and alone any longer. She wants to be safe because she's forgotten what it feels like to sleep in a comfortable bed without hesitating or creating an emergency escape plan. She's a time refugee that's been hunted for who knows how long and has not had a serious relationship in presumably thousands of years. This goes beyond any romantic relationship. She's never had a hint of a platonic or a familial relationship in her entire life and existence. Her mother is a distant, faded memory. Sylvie has no friends, nobody that she can confide in, and nowhere she feels safe. This guard that she keeps up creates the illusion of a cold-hearted sorceress who acts without remorse, but underneath, she fights only out of necessity. Her emotional ties to people have been numbered by years of watching mass extinction after mass extinction and being hunted by a faceless army of tyrants. Deep down, she's tired of fighting and wants to find a timeline where she can feel safe. Because even in the timelines where the TVA can't find her, she is forced to hide out in apocalyptic events where she can never rest. Sylvie wants to spend one day knowing that the Minutemen will not come for her, and she won't have to watch everyone around her die again, and again, and again. Even when she finds a break from being hunted, she can never rest due to the circumstances of where she hides. After all, what is more human than wanting to live peacefully? What is more human than wanting to wake up at peace in the morning without having to worry about today being your last day? And this is why Lady Loki, Sylvie, is one of the most tragic antagonists in the history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But anyway, my friends, what do you think of this theory? Do you truly think Sylvie is malicious, or is she simply fighting to survive and to live a normal life that she left behind all those thousands of years ago? And what are your thoughts on the TVA constantly hunting her? As always, my friends, leave what you think in the comments down below. Hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and have a great day.